Hello and welcome. You're viewing the Citizens Journalist podcast, Mesa County Compass, that brings you the news that you can use from a different point of view. I'm Ruth.
I'm Lisa.
And together we are Mesa County Compass. Our goal is to create an informed, current, active citizenry armed with the facts. We will be covering what's new to you, what it means to you, what you can do about it, and provide you access to the decision makers when we can. Good morning. We are here with Mesa County Compass, and we're doing a morning show this morning because the afternoon seems to be taken up with everybody. So consequently, we're doing a morning show. Anyway, we would like to welcome Mr. Darrin Crow, who is the pastor of the Heart of Grand Junction Church, also a published author of Understanding Emotional Victory 101 and Understanding Biblical Mental Emotional Health 101. Welcome, Darrin.
Thank you very much.
And usually what we ask is you give us a little bit of background on yourself and how you became a pastor and anything you want to share on that.
Okay, well, I am the pastor at Heart of Junction Church, and I have been there for 27 and a half years.
Wow.
Now I was part of the planting group for that church, and we've always been downtown. And for the last, since 2011, we have been on 4th Street, right across the street from Hawthorne Park. Mm-hmm. And our church is a downtown type of church. A lot of churches, 30 years ago were leaving downtown and building nice buildings out on the edges of town. And we thought there was kind of an absence there. And so we've been there ever since. My original intention, I planted the church with college students. My original intention was I was going to pastor the church for 2 years to get it started. And then when we got it started and kind of ready to hand off, I would give it to somebody else. But we still have not gotten a real pastor at this point. And at 27 years in, I think it might be too late. So,
They say we like you. Why would we want somebody new?
The church is healthy and just a fantastic group of people. So the books I've written are along the lines of mental health. There's a third book as well, which has to do with worldviews, which is how I think I got to know you in the first place, several decades ago. But not that long ago.
Okay.
But regardless, the books have to do with mental health and a biblical perspective on mental health. That's where my master's degree is, in counseling psychology, and I lived in that world for quite some time and kind of came out of it to plant the church, but I have continued to kind of have a mental health focus throughout my entire pastorate. I was just mentioning to you ladies before we started that a large bit of my schedule is still taken up with doing counseling, usually referrals from other pastors at other churches. About 80% of my one-on-one schedule is not with folks from my church, but my church kind of understands what I'm about and what I do, and it's kind of a gift from our church to the community and to the churches in the community that I might be available for some of this. My daughter has followed in my footsteps. She's a trauma counselor in Grand Junction, and she does a great job with that. So I think that's kind of me.
Yeah, it's kind of you. Yeah, and I, one of the things that we had talked about before is, the homeless that you said frequently that mental health or the addiction, and I know that you did court-mandated counseling. What is effective in working with anybody, and how do you define a mental health issue? I mean, is it self-defined, do you think, or is it more clinical?
So that's a loaded question because it works both ways. When I was young and kind of coming out of my master's programs, we referred to clients in two different formats. One was the group of clients that are looking for help. They know they need help. They have a problem. They recognize the consequences of some of their decision making, and they want help. They want to move into a better life, and we called those folks non-resistive. The other side of the coin is what was referred to as a resistive client. They do not want to receive help. They do not want to be obligated to a meeting here or there, or they don't want to attend the services. That's why the court mandated thing was really interesting. Especially a lot of the stuff I was doing had to do more with anger management than with addiction. But even the anger management guys would get themselves arrested. And then in order to kind of absolve themselves from the problems they had with the county or the government, they would have to attend these classes. And so when you ask a question, what's effective? Sadly, unless you really want to change, unless your desire is to change, hardly anything is effective. And I might be a bit of a pessimist there, but I'm not a big believer in huge numbers of people just changing because you hit the right program, and especially mandated services or services for, especially like the unhoused. Our church is directly across the street from Hawthorne Park, and Hawthorne Park comes and goes as as kind of a rallying spot for the homeless in our valley. Something will happen over there, and there'll be 4 or 5 people get arrested, and all of a sudden they're not there for a month, but then it stays quiet, and then all of a sudden you're back up to having 30 or 40 people over there all the time. And our church is directly across the street. My office door opens up to the park, and boy, they know my number. They know when I'm in the building, and they know when our church has a little bit of money. Usually it's the first of the month, and we do benevolence for them, but it's fairly limited. But they know when we have it, and they tend to know when we run out. The sadness of the whole thing is, in all my years, we've been across the street from Hawthorne Park now for 14 years, and I can't think of a single individual that we have helped to become a better person, a stronger person in their own life. And
That's very interesting because of what you do, and as long as you've been there, and as much counseling as you've done.
Yeah, we've helped them often to get some medicine. We've helped them. In the past, we used to help with some rooming situations and things like that. We had to stop doing that because of the number of times that we would put somebody in a hotel room for 2 or 3 nights on our church debit card, and then end up getting a bill for $2,000 for the repair of the room that was trashed and destroyed. And so we don't help with housing anymore for people that we don't know. We will occasionally do that. We've got people inside the church that need help too, and so our benevolence is limited. It's very limited, and it's hard to choose who you want to help. But we also, my church is a big fan of, you would call it, I guess, the cup of cold water type of approach to ministry. And Jesus says, the poor you're always going to have with you. And we don't necessarily think people are going to change when we help them with physical needs. But and usually we're disappointed. We've started, there was years ago, we had some people that started a bread ministry, and they were working really hard to round up good bread and things like that just to get to people and families and things. And we had to have somebody every single day we distributed bread go up on the roof of the church and pull all the bread off the roof. That they just open up the packages and throw them in there, and they come in and get it. And I don't know if anybody even, some of them took it home, and there were families that came, but they weren't necessarily unhoused. But the people from across the street, if you give them water, they'll not appreciate it near as much as if you just give them a $25 gift card to City Market, and we don't hand out cash. But yeah, it's a little disappointing how rarely that works. But there's probably some good reasons for it. I don't think it's just all about we don't know how to help people, because we can. We've got these great victory stories as well, but they're usually people that want to just have a different life, a better life, and they know that they've got an issue, and they want to try to deal with it. And especially coming into the church, if they'll allow us to deal with things spiritually, we can really make good progress spiritually. And there's good things that happen there. But Mesa County, their homeless advocacy groups have to do it's called a point in time count. And I think the point in time homelessness count or unhoused count in Mesa County for 2025, there were 725 people. And overall, Mesa County counts about 2,400 or 2,500 homeless individuals during the course of a year, which can be a night here or there, or it can be an ongoing thing. And at the county level, it's kind of interesting because they have what's called a by name list, and they literally know almost everybody. And our church has to call the police fairly frequently, and because there'll be some vandalism or something will be happening with a neighbor, or there's a fight going on, and you just start describing something, and they called me a while back, and we had a problem with somebody parked a pickup in our parking lot and would not move it, and I was telling them about it, and told them the truck, and they go, "Oh, that's Rachel." And I'm like, "Yep, it is. It's Rachel." I was going to tell you that in just a second, but they knew it by the pickup, and literally, I have a relationship with Rachel. Talk to her almost every day, and 3 days out of 7, she's lucid, and she's not addicted, but she's schizophrenic. She needs help, but she does not want to receive it. She doesn't want anybody telling her what to do. And so she gets arrested on those other days. And but some days she's looking towards making a decision, but there's not a lot you can do to help Rachel, from our church. And just letting her park there for 2 months without towing her was one of the better things we could do for her, even though it probably wasn't good for her in the long run. Right. She ended up losing her truck and spent a bunch of time in jail. And so it's hard to figure out what can we do just to help these people. I know I'm just going on and on.
No, we like that. That's what we need to know.
Okay, good.
You're good.
Well, and I'll tell you, so it's Substance Abuse and Mental Health SAMHSA, Services Administration, I think. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration is the national federal kind of not only watchdog and counter, but they're also the resource provider for mental health issues in America. You were kind of leading this way a little bit ago. In 2020, their number for those who felt that they had mental health issues that were significant enough that they needed to talk to somebody, find medication, or whatever. It's 165 million people in America in 2020. That's about half of our population, and that population includes children. And so those people that are reporting that are probably over about the age of 12 or 14, all the way to the elderly, but it's literally 1 out of every 2. And then what you can kind of extrapolate from that, and it comes into the county, it comes everywhere. The people that are unhoused are probably going to have twice the problems as those who are living life and going to work and paying their rent and taking care of business. And so where you would say that half of America is looking like that, it's probably 75% of the homeless, if not more, are experiencing drug and alcohol issues or mental health issues. And they're usually more significant. And so you end up with a problem where if there are 725 people on any given night in Mesa County, and you want to help those 725 people, most of them do not want to receive your help. And it's a generalization, and I'm giving you what I've observed, and they may not want my help because I come with a Bible lesson attached a lot of times. But
Like Salvation Army did.
yeah, they make me look pretty chill and mellow. But and our desire is, if we see somebody lying on the grass and they can't stand up, somebody goes across the street and tries to figure out what to do. But boy, once you want to help them, I remember an incident with. I have a place behind the church, go through a little alley, and there's a place where I park on most days. And I was leaving one day, and there was a boot by my car door, and I kind of gave it a little kick to get it out of there to see what was, and there was a foot in the boot. And and my car's not that high off the ground, but there's a guy underneath the car, and he was groaning and moaning, and I'm like, I did not run over him. He got there on his own while I was in the office, but I couldn't get him out, so called the police, and again they knew exactly who he was, and their hands are tied. He is so drunk that I was like, he's got alcohol poisoning, I'm sure, and they're like, we think he might too. But their hands are tied as to what they can do because of his civil rights. And you can't just throw a guy in jail he's got to cause more trouble than he was causing. And so the only way to help him is to trespass him and get him sent to jail. And now he's got a trespass thing, and there's going to be court, and there's going to be money, and he's not going to be happy about it. It's not going to make his day to have been treated that way. And so it's pretty frustrating to try to help in a system, in a situation where I think Jesus hit it 2,000 years ago, and he just said, you're always going to have these people with you. And I'm a big believer in the free agency of man to be able to say yes or no to things in their life, and it's the decisions that we have made that kind of cause this to happen.
So what do you think would be an all-over, I won't say cure because that's not going to happen, but something that would actually help other than just counseling or medications or however many other things? Is there anything that we can do? Because we're looking at a situation here in Grand Junction where we need to try to do something. They've tried several different things. Nothing seems to be working. Is there anything?
Well, so it's
Or
sort
how
of,
should society
How
react to
should
that?
exactly.
it's sort of a chicken and egg thing, which does the homelessness cause the extreme swings in addiction and mental health issues, or does a mental health issue cause the homelessness? And it's probably it's probably like eating chicken and eggs at the same time, because I think that they work hand in hand. The things that work best, once again, if you can develop a relationship with somebody, and they will eventually maybe start to respond to the relationship, and then all of a sudden they want to maybe please somebody, or it's just the nature of good relationships where a person actually believes that somebody cares for them. And when they find out that somebody actually cares for them, those sorts of things kind of work a little bit better. In the world of churches and programs that churches do, some of the ones I know that have had some like really great stories come out of those churches about this person is, oftentimes you'll see he was addicted to cocaine and alcohol, and now he's leading a recovery group and has been doing it for years. And you'll find those guys, if you get to know them and you can identify kind of that desire for something better, I think that's your best chance. And then with that, you have to start doing some things to separate them. I'll be honest, the most effective, this is my perspective, I think it's true. The most effective treatment for actually seeing improvement in a person's life, limiting the addictions, mental health issues being dealt with in an appropriate way, it happens through prison. It happens during prison ministries. And when people are kind of isolated and set aside. So I said that I don't really have experiences of just reaching out across the street. I can remember one that was amazing. This was years ago, and we had a fellow in the church who was mental health issues himself, but he would come every week and he would live on the streets, but he was really bold in proclaiming that it was by choice, and he really was messed up, but he cared about people and he loved people. And one day around Christmas time, he brought these 3 ladies into the church, and when he came in late, and we were already doing the sermon, and he just goes, these 3 ladies are hookers. And we're like, oh, okay. And he goes, you women, watch your husbands, because these ladies will try to make money off of them before they leave. And all of them were mortified. But he brought them in, and it was wintertime. And for 3 weeks, one of those girls just kept coming to church by herself. And right around Christmas, I was praying, this is a great time of the year to restore broken relationships. And it was just in the prayer. It wasn't the sermon. It was just in the prayer. And I heard some noise, and I kind of could peek, and a building we were in at the time was really small. And I saw her leaving. And I never saw her. It just went forever. And about the fall of the following year, I was going through a drive-through at one of the restaurants in town, and the girl at the drive-thru just goes, Pastor Darrin. And I'm like, yeah, and I thought I knew her. And she was the girl that left.
Oh,
and I go, where did you go? And because she looked so healthy and so good and so clean. And she goes, you told me that it was a good time to restore a broken relationship. And the only way I could restore my relationship with my father was to get clean. And the only way I can get clean was to go to prison. And she goes, and I knew I wouldn't pass a UA right there. And she goes, so I went in, and I had one taken, and they threw me in jail. And she's been clean for all these years, and I get cards from her every now and again. She lives in Alaska now. She's got a family, and everything's great. But her success was to be so removed from the trouble that she could find a way then to move forward. And of course, I will always advocate for the book that I have here. It's a spiritual biblical approach to understanding mental health, and I believe in medications and things like that, but I believe that if people really want to change, there's a possibility. The risk of being a little bit pastoral, I use the story from the Gospel of John, where Jesus approaches the man who's been a paralytic for almost 4 decades, and he just asked me, he goes, do you want to be well? And the man immediately starts making excuses. Nobody will help me get into the water to where he thought he could be healed, and I don't have people around that can help me. And he kind of took the victim approach. And Jesus told him, he goes, just stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. But there's a spiritual lesson there that I think is really true. And this young lady that I remember from so many Christmases ago. She didn't make an excuse that day. The question was, do you want to be well? And her answer was yes. And when I wrote my book, and that's what chapter 1 is around that idea, I tried to find research and things that would kind of talk about this idea of how many people actually want to be well. And I got to tell you, I couldn't find anything that was really that I could put in there and have a good citation for it. But my guess is that it's about 80% of people do not actually want to be well. If they just had the choice, they don't take it. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It's their identity. Victimhood is a really great resource for a person who needs an excuse for not succeeding or not doing well, and that I think is probably, if there's anything that I've observed that kind of translates from the homeless across the street from us and the people in my church, that is the same in both cases. It's how enthusiastic am I about wanting to be well. And I kind of sort of beg people in my church to stop for a second and think about how you're answering this, because I want you to challenge yourself on this idea that maybe I do want to be well. And if I just, again, I've given you a 12-minute answer for the idea of what works. The thing that works is when a person wants to receive help. And
there's nothing you can do to force them to do that.
No, you can love them. My friend Nick, pastor in Pennsylvania, says you can lead a horse to water, you can even make it drink, but you can't make it want to do that. And and I think that's just the big problem. And so I think a lot of services do a good job trying to sell the benefits of being well. People that are reaching out, and I know people that work in like adult services in the county and things like that, and they're good people and they have good hearts and they want people to be better. But I can want it for you all day long if you don't want it for yourself. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's
so
really
that does
tough.
prove to be a big issue.
So when we say we're switching around what we're doing in the county, like we're closing down the Homeward Bound and saying we just can't fund it, we're going to fund pathways for families and some temporary, and maybe you've got 80 beds a night, then and saying, well, we need to switch to having mental health services and addiction services. What do you think? Is that a good switch, or and is there enough and available if some now, because we've got the want again, are there enough services available for people that want it?
So at my church, we define love very specifically. We say that love is meeting needs, and I try to distinguish that from the idea of needs are different than wants.
Yes.
And that is the problem. People don't feel loved in this world unless you give them what they want.
Oh.
And when you're trying to give them what they need, it's not perceived as loving. It's perceived as being judgmental. It's perceived as being unkind. It's perceived as being short-sighted. A whole lot of different things. And so again, you're sort of, what people need and what they want are two different things. They need a respite from the cold and the rain and hunger and things like that. And Homeward Bound would provide that for them for $3 a night or something. A lot of times they told me it was $25, and then somebody else would come along and say it's $3. And we would always hand somebody, I usually carry cash in my pocket to get somebody to Homeward Bound if they want to go, but nobody wants to go to Homeward Bound. They're complaining about, and it was full, So, I mean, people were going and they were using it. And I think it was an amazing service. I think it was a fantastic opportunity for people in the community to learn about the unhoused and to meet people and get to know them by name. Because you would meet them there, while you're feeding them and trying to get them settled for the night. But so many of them didn't want to abide by the rules, and homeward they had to have rules, or it would turn into chaos every night. And again, so what they needed was a warm place to sleep. What they wanted was a place to be on their own. I've heard recently, and I don't know too much about this, I believe it's true, that there is a housing situation for a limited number of people as long as they have a dog. And it's out in the Clifton area, maybe by where the dog humane society is and everything like that. But you have to have a dog in order to get into the housing for the night. And the one of the things that was happening is the people in the neighborhood around the place were losing their dogs. And
Missing the dogs.
And they were, and they'd be at the shelter the next day for something. And so, it's just like,
They're playing the game.
And that's kind of it. And I hate to be so cynical as to just say that, but I feel like Calvin and Hobbes sometimes. They lie, I lie, and the thing where they're playing the game, and so I'm going to get in on that game with them, and things like that, and sometimes I feel like I'm just being mean, but I'm just not going to give you what you want, and
right.
And even I generally almost every time I hand somebody a gift card for, we usually have $25, $50 gift cards for City Market, and I'm like, I hand it over and I'm like, bye $25. It's just it's gonna be gone. But every now and again something beautiful happens. Had a guy from the park and he was an organizer. He was probably was a politician among the homeless in the valley. And he come over one day and he got like a $50 City Market card, and he came back with a ton of groceries from City Market, and they were just having a cookout over across the street. He got hot dogs and pork and beans and got some water and some things, and then they didn't have any wood or anything to start a fire. And so he's like, got any scrap wood around here? And we found him some, and he goes, you got a lighter? And all of you homeless people, nobody has a lighter. And he's like, we don't have one. It's just like, it's crazy. And so we found the candle lighter thing that we have, and then he comes over and he goes, there's a lot of food over here. Do you want to join? And he on one hand, he like wasted it on a party, but then on the other hand, it's in all the years that we've been across the street from the park, it's like one of my favorite things that's ever happened. So it's not 100% like hopeless. And my cynicism is fortunately, I think, rescued every now and again by certain amazing people. But
the Lord just keeps you going.
He does, and I feel bad because I'm like, I don't think I'm offering any solutions. But I do think maybe just patience, and
You're offering them hope. That's the thing you're offering them, is hope.
I hope so. But I don't know. I feel like almost like I have to believe when I give them the gift card that this is going to be good for their soul. For me to give you $25.
Somewhere it'll register. It's a hope. And somewhere it will register.
And people tell stories about that, because you do hear from people that worked their way through it and they got out of it. What you hear when you hear those stories are examples of, I looked and I saw, I made a decision, and I started to move towards what I wanted to do. And that's where the spiritual thing, a lot of people on the streets that are unhoused do have pretty significant spiritual, I'd say, interests. there's a reason. A lot of them come into a church because churches just are obligated to help them, and they know that, and so it's a resource. But there's a lot who have spiritual needs, and those people are amazing. The other book I wrote here is about emotional intelligence and letting the Bible speak to that. There's a story in there about a man that he wasn't unhoused, but he called me, and I feel so bad because in the book I called him John, and I've not seen him again for several years now, and I can't remember his real name because I changed it. If I ever see him again, which I think I will, he'll tell me, and I'll be right there. But he called, and when he called, he was desperate. He wanted a pastor, and I answered the phone usually when the phone in my pocket is our church phone these days, and it was 4:30, and he was in Clifton, but I said, I think you need to come in, because he was talking about hurting himself, and he did. He's like, yeah, I'll come by, and so he got there, and he walked through the doors of our church, and we have a little entrance, and then go up the stairs, and then there's the sanctuary. And when he walked into the sanctuary, he just fell on the floor face down and cried, and I was like, this guy is really having something going on. And he told me a story. He actually used to be a youth minister, and his wife was pregnant with their second child, and right before she delivered, they found out that she just had this terrible cancer, and she didn't do any treatment for the 3 or 4 weeks before the baby came, and then she died within 3 weeks after the baby was born.
Lord.
And that was about 15 years prior, and he had deeply into alcoholism. His 2 girls, which by that point one was early college and the other one was getting ready to graduate from high school. They both hadn't seen him really more than once a month for a long time. He was letting somebody else raise them, and his alcoholism was getting worse and worse, and he was suicidal. And he just was like, I have to do something. And the church, which he rejected when he lost his family, he never went back to church after she passed, and he couldn't sleep and everything. But he'd rejected it all, and he shows up at the building, and we talk for a little bit, and he keeps telling me about all these dreams he would have about his wife just looking at him, and he would wake up and he would ask her what to do and things like this. He had these dreams that were just really significant for him. And I don't know everything, but I know some things, and I just said, John, what you need to do, you're in here and you're obviously having a spiritual moment, and I think you need to pray. And then, he was praying, and he was clear up on the stage, and we got a big cross up there, and he was just praying towards it. I went and got this candle that we use, and I lit it with that same lighter that I use with the homeless guys. I lit it, and when he was done praying, I said, I want you to blow the candle out. And he just go and blew it out. I went, no. I lit it again, and I said, I want you to think about what you're talking about with your wife. I want you to say goodbye to her and blow the candle out. And he cried for 20 minutes before he did it. But then he blew the candle out, and he just took this big, huge breath. He called me later that night. This was probably 5 o'clock in the evening, 5:30. He called me about 10 o'clock, and he was halfway to Denver. And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm going to Texas to get things right with my brother. And he goes, I have to make things right with my brother. And then I'm going to head back and go to Durango, where his daughters were, and make things right with them. And he called me the next morning, and he goes, I found an AA meeting late last night, and I found one this morning, and I'm going to keep going to him. And he had a breakthrough that was spiritual, and it was immediate, and it's lasted. And I've heard from him several times, like maybe not for a year now, but as far as I know, he's doing great, and his life has changed. But that wasn't anything but a bit of availability, and I know.
But that was one.
It was one, and that's the important thing. Yeah, my daughter's ministry in Africa, it's called She Has a Name. She takes care of girls who are in poverty-based prostitution or the sex trafficking, and she takes girls. She knows she can't solve the whole problem, so she uses the starfish metaphor of the little boy throwing starfish, and the old grumpy guy is like, you can't save hardly any of them, they're all going to die, and he throws one in and says, well, that one's glad I helped him. So it's the starfish metaphor. And I think that's where I get what I need to keep handing out cards and doing, gift cards and doing what I can. It's a big problem, though. Maybe more than, I'm not mad at it, at the government. I'm not mad at churches for not being able to solve this. It's in a large measure unsolvable. So
Just part of fallen nature. So, do you think that they have a council that they put together on helping the homeless? Is that something that you feel like your contributions could really help? Because I know that if you get those nonprofits together and they all share their ideas, that, alleviating, or like you do, reaching that one person, but maybe in a more organized fashion, or is that nothing that you think is effective, or can't work with the other nonprofits because their philosophies are different? Because there are a lot of different ways to reach.
And there's a truth to that, but there's also the truth that I know people that are considerably different than me in worldview and political orientation and things like that, and I believe that they value the life of the homeless person, of the unhoused person, and I think they believe that I do as well. And so I can almost always sit next to somebody and talk. My cynicism about solving I don't know that you can solve it. You can maybe change some numbers, though. And so you house people. When I think about people like Rachel, who I was mentioning, and there's another fellow that lived in the back behind the church for a good long 3 months, and think of some of those people. I think the housing thing is important, but the context of the housing is probably what needs to be there. We do not have institutional housing for people with mental health issues, and their civil rights are. And I'm old enough that I feel like I saw in the 80s when this was moving. We were moving away from just putting people in an institution, and we were moving towards the individual that's experiencing the difficulty, which I think is great. But those institutional things, I talk to Rachel and I go, she needs to be in a place where the worst thing that's happening to her today is that she has to spend 5 hours in the game room playing checkers with people that she doesn't want to be with, as opposed to freezing and running around in the neighborhood without anything. And
so there is a place for institutions then.
I think so, and
I
I
believe
think,
that myself, but then I'm the old school too.
I think it's a generous gift, but it's also because it's not what people want. It doesn't appear to be loving, and
But it
most of
can
the
be.
stuff that's loving in our life is tougher than the things that we want. And
Isn't
so,
that the truth?
yeah,
Well, and what you said before, when they can't take care of themselves, they can't
They just
take care of
can't.
themselves. So you're putting them in a place where they're safe and warm, fed, and maybe
And
you can
supervised.
get some help that they get to a point where
Yeah.
they
do you
want to.
do you remember C.S. Lewis, the Narnia guy, and some things like that? He was a serious writer as well. He has a book called The Weight of Glory, and in The Weight of Glory, he talks about a child, and I feel like he was maybe talking about in the streets of Calcutta or something like that, but it would have been 100 years ago that he was talking about this. But as a child building mud pies, putting together mud pies, in that situation, may not have any idea how to comprehend a holiday at the beach, that it could be such a great thing. And what he referred to was, he said, we are often at the risk of being too easily pleased. A mud pie is, I'm happy making mud pies and I'm not going to try for anything else. And that too easily pleased is, it can be so many different things. It can be a drug of choice, that I'm going to choose that instead of something else. It could be doing good for people and, giving them what they want as opposed to what they need. And we're just too easily pleased. And we need to be challenged a little bit more with what it is that we're trying to do. And addictions, the biblical word for addictions is stronghold. And that's kind of, I think that's an interesting reality to me, that between being too easily pleased and having these strongholds that take control over us, I think that we get kind of the answer to what's going on in people's lives and the condition of the world out there. And so paying attention to some of that stuff. And again, it goes back to maybe the one is the one that we really help. I don't know if you ladies have ever done anything that are along the lines of prison ministries or anything like that.
My husband did. He
I've
went
not
to
done
rifle
any
prison
of it.
every week.
It's an amazing thing that some of the most free people we meet that are not attached to strongholds or shackles in their lives are people who have found their freedom while they're imprisoned. And they're amazing people. These people, especially to me, the ones who have been converted to Christianity during their jail time, they have a sense of freedom that a lot of people in my church do not have.
Yes.
And and it's an amazing thing. And so, again, that's kind of the look for maybe there's one person out there that can be moved. And I think it's why I still talk to the unhoused.
One
Because maybe
starfish
there's
at a
one.
time.
Yeah.
One, yeah.
So what do you think is, I think a lot of people think in terms of, because another book that you had recommended was When Helping Hurts.
Yes.
And they had started by saying, we have to determine what's a crisis. And if it's a crisis, it's short term and it's, there is no other option. And then you move to rehabilitation where you're coming alongside. But I think a lot of people are afraid to come alongside somebody that they think may be dangerous or their behavior's erratic. What do you recommend for, most people? Is there a way to come alongside somebody and build that relationship in a way that is, it's not that it feels comfortable, but you don't feel like you're going to be,
You're perceived as safe.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you're going right out to them.
I'm 6'3" and 260 pounds, and that's a different thing than one of the people at my church who has the biggest heart. for the people across the street who is 23, blonde, and 110 pounds. And I think that there are still some things that everybody can do. I'm a huge love is meeting needs. People that are unhoused are not treated as individuals, as people. And I love the fact that the county has this by name thing. I love the fact that the police know, and when they come and they start dealing with Rachel in my parking lot, they walk right up to her and they're like, Rachel, how are you doing today? And they not only know her problem, they know her name. And so this idea of knowing a person's name is just, to me, it's an amazing thing. And so meet a couple, and maybe if there's 725 homeless people on any given night in Mesa County, that means we just need about 1,500 people that know the names of a handful of those people. And a lot of, like, I know the ones that hang out at Hawthorne Park. I know a lot of the ones that are at Sherwood Park. The ones that are out more near Clifton and things, I don't always know. But I'll tell you, knowing their name is an amazing thing, and them knowing my name is an amazing thing. I was walking on the river trail, and I don't want this guy to get in trouble. It's been a year, so I bet he's moved on. But I'm walking on the river trail, and it was in the middle of the day, and it was August, and which I take my river trail walks when it's 110 and right at noon. But
good idea.
no, it's a terrible idea. But I'm walking and I hear this guy go, Pastor Darrin, and I look and I can't even see it, but down in the bushes is a guy from Hawthorne Park, and I'm like, what are you doing down here? And he goes, this is where I actually live. And he got me down in there, and he had 3 tents together that you could not see from 50 feet away in the park, and he invited me in to his tents, and I was in there, and I was like, I'm going to bring you a City Market card. And he goes, I'll come get it. But he knows my name, and I know his. Every now and again, you'll see a story or hear a story about a homeless person dying an unfortunate death, and so often, I'm like, is that Scott? And my associate pastor's like, did you hear about Scott? And I'm like, oh crud, that was Scott. And you know him enough, and I hope that in the absence of everything else, that some of the people that I run across will know that they're loved. And if you can't solve the problem, you can at least make the day more comfortable.
Yeah.
There was a PBS thing years and years and years ago. It was called Loving My Neighbor, and one of the board conversations on that was, who is my neighbor? And was C. Everett Koop, I remember, was talking about, and he was the Surgeon General at the time. Yes, thank you. And he was just talking about, I can't help a lot of these people, but I might be able to help them have a better day. And he would even say, I remember him saying, this might sound funny, but I will give $5 to a guy who's dying of alcoholism, who's suffering the DTs. I will give him $5 knowing he's going to buy alcohol, because I know that it's going to give him the only comfort he's ever going to have. And I remember thinking that was pretty magnanimous. So.
Well, we need Kleenex.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
So just mental health for average people, because you are counseling still, and you have people coming in that obviously want to be there. Is there anything that you think in terms of counseling that is that step that's going to help those people toward being whole again? And what type of therapies do you think work?
So, have you ever seen the Bob Newhart skit where he only charges $5 for counseling,
Huh.
and people are talking to him for about 30 seconds, and he just goes, just stop it, and give me $5 because it'll be solved. It's in its rudeness. It's a big piece of the whole thing. We need to just determine that I am not going to be a victim of my situation. Maybe a better place to go than Bob Newhart is the Captain of My Soul poem that Mandela made so famous. I think it was famous before, but that I get to choose, and so my advocacy there is, if you can look in your life and recognize that you are embracing victimhood at any level, just stop that. And the way you stop that is by first recognizing it and then saying, I think I want to make different steps to get out of this. I am a huge believer. So the book about mental health, the first half is what the problem is, and it's thinking errors. And then the second half is kind of what to shoot for. And I'm a huge proponent of what we refer to as SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relatable, and time sensitive. So I could set a goal to eat 60 Krispy Kreme donuts in an hour. It's specific, it's measurable, 60 is the number. Is it achievable? I believe I could do it. Is it relative, though, to what I'm trying to do? No, it's not. So that's not going to be one of my goals. But if I could set goals that will help me in some very specific, and I consider them to be lower level, if we think about like Maslow's hierarchy, they're lower level things. Just physical health. It's like, well, I know I'm a mess there, but I need to. I got to get myself squared away with my family, and go for a walk every day. And it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relative, and it's time sensitive. And start feeling a little better. And then the next thing you know, you're not so grouchy at the house. Your wife's not going to be responding to your grouchiness quite as much. And I'm oversimplifying this, but and then all of a sudden it's like, maybe my next SMART goal is going to be, when I go walk on the river trail, I'm going to ask my wife to go along with me. And one of the things I wrote in there, it was really funny, but I got as much feedback on that throwaway line as anything else that's in the entire book when you're talking about these SMART goals. And I have a little thing in there about try to look a bug in the eye, and while you're on the trail, or a lizard or whatever. And this one lady was like, I was terrified of spiders, and I started, whenever I would see a spider, I would just stare at it. And she goes, and I focused, and I could see its face, and it's just this whole different world. And for a little while, she was sending me, I didn't even know her, but she was sending me pictures of spider faces. And at the first, it was things she found online, and then she literally got a better phone so she could do that on her own. And her whole observation was, she was going for walks and she was looking for spiders to be friends with in her house and on these walks in the backyard and every place, and taking these pictures. And her observation was, all of a sudden I realized that these things at the higher level of my mental health life, relationships and spiritual growth and things like that, those things at the higher level were just getting taken care of. And so I'm a big believer in work the most basic problems in your life before you really start tackling the other stuff. And you can always be working on that, reading a book or going to therapy, and kind of dealing with some of those things. But I said, just get yourself in order. I know people that can't go to church because they can't wake up at 8 in the morning. ever. And start waking up at 8 in the morning. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, go to bed before midnight. Well, how am I going to do that? And you got to decide to do it. But my two greatest pieces of mental health advice that have worked more than anything else in the world is go to bed before midnight and get up to an alarm and eat more green vegetables. And it's like all of a sudden
you feel better.
Yeah, half of your problems are gone.
Yeah.
And so the oversimplistic, absolutely, but so is getting ourselves into mental health problems. We just walk right in there. And when half the country thinks that we have individual mental health issues, and we have concerns and we have anxieties and we have depression, but it's becoming what guides us rather than something that we need to just face up to and walk out of.
There you go.
Well, and I remember Henry Cloud said one of the things, because you kind of touched on that too, is that before you can set a goal, you have to believe you can achieve it. And I thought, he said that stops more people from getting help or doing anything is they don't think they can. And he says, you just have to decide, why can't you? You know?
Some of the best mental health advice comes from children's books. And it's The Little Engine That Could. That's good advice.
I think I can.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a dragon. I've given that book to an Army Ranger who said one of the most helpful things he's ever had in his life was understanding that there are dragons, and as long as we can pay attention to them, they'll stay small enough that we can deal with. And a child's
I'll have
book.
to make sure that's in the library.
It absolutely needs to be in the library. So it's in my library at my church, and so and I use it as much as almost anything short of the Bible. So
Yeah, I will get that because I'm a booker. And the last thing, in terms of therapy, because this is something I think when people go to therapy, so much of the time is you have to come up with a solution yourself. Is there anything that you think where a counselor should, any time maybe, where a counselor should say, have you thought about this? Have you tried this? Instead of waiting for them to come to that conclusion on their own, because they haven't thought of it. Or
so that's one of the key dividing points between therapeutic styles or things. My daughter is very good at listening and kind of encouraging next steps without actually telling people what to do. I am more like Bob Newhart. I'm just like,
yes, just stop it.
a minute after you start, you can tell. I bet you've asked me less questions than almost anybody you ever have on here, because I'll just start talking. And I consider it to be a little bit of a shortcoming in my life, that I am not oriented around letting you find your way. I just want to tell you. And I really have to work to kind of get people to see their own thing. It is so hard for me to just let people go off on their own devices, because and part of this is my biblical approach that the Bible says that the heart is foolish beyond all measure. And I know Britney Spears would disagree with me. Just follow your heart in whatever you do. And she probably has more money than me, but probably more experiences than me, but I don't think she's any happier than I am. And I'm not meaning to be mean to Britney Spears. No. I just remember her saying that 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's I think that where I am in my life is you come and you talk to me. I'm going to start telling you what the Bible says about this. And I will have people read a verse and then tell me what you think that's saying to you. And if they're like totally not getting it, I'll try to reorient them. But I like what the Bible says, and so that's what I use. And there's a lot of people in this world that'll think that that's foolishness, but I don't know, it works for a lot of people that I know.
Well, and I also think that it says biblically that to seek wise counsel. And to me, counsel is telling you something. It's not sitting there and listening and waiting for you to come up with it.
And wise counsel is also many voices. And so I believe I need to listen to what my mother still thinks. I need to listen to what my associate pastor thinks, what my kids think. I need to listen. I need to listen to mom. They might be giving me different advice, but now I can sort through it. And so, take counsel and then choose your way. And so, yeah.
Well, we really appreciate this and enjoyed it so much. So
Absolutely. It's
And-
a totally different
you.
perspective
Yeah.
than many think of.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
yeah. So
I
this
enjoy
is
it.
a great way to end the year, but you won't be seeing this until the first of the year. So
this is a
Wow.
great
You
way
are-
to begin
you are
a year.
January 1st, even though you're here before then.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you have been watching Mesa County Compass. This is the facts as we know them, the truth as we see it. You decide. Thanks,
Thank
Darrin.
you, Darrin.
You're welcome.